What if your departure day arrived without warning? How would your final hours unfold? My words hang in the air, imbued with a calm introspection, inviting you, my friend, to contemplate the fragility of life. I am Lucius Aeternus, an angel of death. Today, October 17th, 2021, I am here in Curitiba, Brazil, observing Augustus. He rises in the morning with the mark of death upon his head, though he remains unaware. 6:30 a.m., 28 hours and 10 minutes remaining until Augustus' departure. It's a sunny Sunday, the kind that makes anyone believe in the eternity of life. Augustus, 39 years old, father to 5-year-old Alberto, and a dedicated technology professional, is living a rare moment of happiness with his family. He works for an American multinational in the fuel industry, where he faces daily pressure from deadlines and targets imposed by a competitive market. But today, he decided to disconnect from all of that. Augustus wakes up early, around 6:30 a.m., feeling strangely invigorated. He feels physically and emotionally well, as if he had been renewed overnight. He rises quietly, trying not to wake Vanessa and Alberto, and decides to go for a run in the park. He puts on his headphones, connecting them to Spotify, and selects his favorite playlist, a mix of songs that always uplift him and make him feel alive. And I join him. The morning in Curitiba is fresh, and Bacacheri Park is still quiet at this hour. As he runs, Augustus feels free, his body in sync with the music and the rhythmic movement of his steps. The cool morning wind brushes against his face, and he takes a deep breath, savoring the sensation of energy coursing through his veins. He feels young again, full of vitality, as if, for a moment, life had no rush and problems didn't exist. 7:15 a.m., 27 hours and 5 minutes remaining. On his way back from the park, he decides to do something special for his family. He enters the nearby market, looking for the perfect ingredients for a special breakfast: fruits, bread, cold cuts, fresh juices. He also carefully selects the best meats for the barbecue he plans to prepare later. As Augustus walks through the aisles of the market, his arms full of bags and a satisfied smile on his face, he accidentally bumps into a distinguished man in a dark suit. Augustus, caught off guard, nearly drops one of the bags. The man, however, firmly catches him and looks directly into his eyes. "Excuse me," I say in a soft, soothing voice. My deep blue eyes meet Augustus for a brief moment. Sometimes the paths we take are more important than the destination we reach. Enjoy the moment, always. The impact of my words makes Augustus feel strangely calm. He doesn't know why, but a sense of peace washes over him. "Thank you," he responds, somewhat awkwardly, still trying to grasp the meaning of that brief interaction. I just smile gently, a smile that seems to know more than anyone around. Yes, it is. I, Lucius Aeternus, an angel of death. I came to him in this form to offer a brief message, a moment of peace on a day that will mark his departure. Augustus continues his shopping, but those words stay with him. He can't explain it, but he feels a sense of peace he hasn't felt in a long time. As if, for a moment, everything was in its right place. He finishes his shopping and heads home. 8:45 a.m., 25 hours and 35 minutes remaining. Augustus arrives home, still reflecting on the unusual encounter at the market. As he enters, he notices the apartment is decorated with flowers. Vanessa had bought fresh flowers, filling the room with arrangements of white roses, which emit a soft and comforting fragrance. He smiles, touched by the delicacy of the gesture. As he sets the breakfast table, he pauses for a moment to admire the flowers. Vanessa really knows how to turn an ordinary day into something special, he thinks. When the table is finally set, with the dishes arranged neatly and with a personal touch, Augustus goes to the bedroom and gently wakes Vanessa and Alberto. "Good morning, my loves. I made a special breakfast for you." Vanessa, still half asleep, smiles at the joy on Augustus's face. Alberto jumps out of bed with the typical energy of a 5-year-old, excited by the idea of a surprise breakfast. At the table, as they serve themselves, Augustus compliments the flowers. "These white roses are beautiful, Vanessa. I think you should buy flowers more often. They bring a different life to the apartment." Vanessa smiles, pleased with the unexpected compliment. I'm glad you liked it, Augustus. I wanted today to be special. The family gathers around the table, and there's an atmosphere of pure joy in the apartment. The sun softly illuminates the room, and the smell of fresh coffee and warm bread fills the air with a sense of comfort and security. Augustus watches his wife and son with affectionate eyes, savoring each moment, as if he wanted to imprint it in his memory forever. 10:02 a.m., 24 hours and 20 minutes remaining. After breakfast, Augustus and Vanessa start preparing the barbecue. He's especially affectionate, helping Vanessa with every detail. The conversation between them flows easily, full of laughter and a quiet intimacy. From time to time, Vanessa notices a different glint in Augustus' eyes, as if he were reflecting on something deeper. You know, I was thinking, maybe we should have another child, he says almost casually, breaking the relaxed rhythm of the conversation. Vanessa looks at him, surprised, but with a fond smile. Another child? Are you sure about that, Augustus? It's been so tough with your work, the demands, the travel. I know, he replies. But today, I felt like life is too short to wait for the perfect moment. Alberto would love to have a little brother, and I think it would be good for us, you know? Something to give us even more, meaning more joy. She watches him closely, trying to decipher what's behind his words. You've always been so focused on work. What made you change your mind? He shrugs, a calm smile on his lips. Maybe I'm just realizing that what really matters are these moments, these plans for a future that truly makes us happy. She laughs softly. Well, I can't say I don't like the idea, but let's take it slow, okay? One step at a time. As I listen to this conversation, the irony of the moment doesn't escape me. Augustus speaks with hope about the future, unaware that the future he imagines will never come. You might think that witnessing such a beautiful family scene, I don't feel something. Of course I do. But I know I am necessary for the machinery of life. That's how life is, my friend. I'm not evil. I'm just necessary. 12:30 p.m. 21 hours and 50 minutes remaining. The barbecue continues. The sun still shines over Curitiba, and life seems perfect for Augustus and his family. After the barbecue, Augustus does something out of the ordinary. He cleans up all the mess himself, something he rarely did. Vanessa had always been the one to do it, but today, he feels a different impulse. He moves through the kitchen, the dining room, and even the grill on the balcony with renewed energy, collecting dishes, cutlery, and cleaning the table and the grill. Look at this, Vanessa, he calls out, proud of himself. Today, I'm the one doing the cleaning. Vanessa, surprised, laughs as she watches him. I'm impressed, Augustus. You're really outdoing yourself today. He smiles, satisfied, as he continues cleaning, secretly enjoying the satisfaction of being helpful in a way he usually wasn't. But I am here, invisible, by his side, feeling the warm breeze of a perfect Sunday. I know that every smile, every laugh, is a step towards the inevitable. Augustus' time is running out, and I'm here to guide him when the moment comes. 3:30 p.m., 18 hours and 50 minutes remaining. After lunch, Augustus feels the need to refresh himself. He decides to take a shower before the planned outing with Vanessa and Alberto. He enters the bathroom with a sense of contentment. Vanessa, distracted, begins cleaning the rest of the house, while Alberto continues playing with his toys, his childish mind still wrapped in innocence and carefree thoughts. Augustus suddenly feels a wave of dizziness. Before he can react, a tightness in his chest brings him down. He falls heavily onto the cold bathroom floor, his strength leaving him in an instant. The silence of the bathroom is broken only by the distant sound of Alberto's toys, a tragic contrast to the imminent reality. 4:10 p.m., 18 hours and 10 minutes remaining until Augustus' death. The soft evening light filled Augustus' apartment, casting a warm golden glow on the furniture. Vanessa was in the living room, distractedly wiping down the dining table, reflecting on the calm day they were having. But the silence from the bathroom, where Augustus had been for so long, began to unsettle her. A gnawing feeling of dread crept into her chest, as if something was terribly wrong. Hesitant, with her heart pounding, she approached the bathroom door and called out, "Augustus, are you okay?" Her voice was soft, but laden with anxiety. No response. The silence that followed was deafening, filling the hallway with a void that made her stomach churn. She knocked again, harder this time. "Augustus!" Her voice echoed through the apartment, but still, no answer. Panic started to take over. "Please, Augustus," she whispered, her voice trembling with rising fear. Desperate, Vanessa grabbed her phone, her hands shaking so much she could barely dial the emergency number. "Please, we need an ambulance now," she pleaded with the operator. "My husband. He's not responding. Please, come quickly." Sensing the urgency in her words, the operator assured her that an ambulance was on the way. But every second felt like an eternity. Not knowing what else to do, Vanessa called Guillermo, Augustus' brother. "Guillermo, come quickly." Her voice was a thread of despair. "Augustus? He's locked in the bathroom and won't respond." 4:25 p.m. 18 hours remaining. Guillermo arrived as fast as he could, his mind racing with worries as he ascended in the elevator. He knew his brother's strength, but the anxiety in Vanessa's voice had filled him with a fear he couldn't ignore. He entered the apartment almost running, and his eyes met Vanessa's, now red and swollen with tears. Without hesitation, he rushed to the bathroom. He pounded on the door forcefully. "Augustus, it's me."
"Your brother! Open the door!"
But the lack of response made his heart sink. He took a few steps back and, with a determined kick, broke down the door. As the door swung open, what he saw made his blood run cold. Augustus was lying on the cold floor, naked, motionless. The initial shock nearly paralyzed him, but Guillermo quickly sprang into action. He pulled his brother out of the bathroom and dragged him into the hallway, kneeling beside him, automatically starting CPR, as if love and desperation guided his hands. Each compression on Augustus' chest was a silent plea, a desperate attempt to retrieve the life slipping away. His hands were growing tired, sweat dripping from his forehead, but he didn't stop. "You're not going to die, Augustus," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "You have to come back." Meanwhile, Vanessa was on the phone with emergency services again, her voice choked with sobs. "Please, where is the ambulance? Send someone quickly. My husband. He's not breathing." Every word that left her lips seemed to deepen the terror she felt, and every passing second felt like a battle to keep hope alive. The air in the apartment was heavy, suffocating, thick with tension. The only sounds breaking the oppressive silence were Guillermo's labored breaths and Vanessa's muffled sobs. Guillermo continued the chest compressions, his arms aching from the effort, but he didn't stop, driven by love and urgency. "Augustus, please come back to us," he whispered, silent tears streaming down his face. Alberto, their young son, stood at the hallway entrance, watching the scene with wide, terrified eyes. He clutched his teddy bear tightly, sensing the invisible fear that seemed to envelop their home. Though he didn't fully understand what was happening, he could feel the dread in the air, the pain of his mother, and the urgency of his uncle. In the midst of this chaos, Augustus began to feel a strange lightness. He opened his eyes and, to his shock, saw his own body lying on the floor, saw Guillermo desperately trying to revive him, Vanessa crying on the phone, and Alberto, his son, with wide, terrified eyes. He tried to move, to speak to them, but nothing happened. It was as if he were trapped between life and death, unable to reach the world he had always known. It was then that he saw me, Lucius Aeternus, standing beside him, an angelic figure, dark yet serene, amid the turmoil. "Augustus," I said calmly, "do not fear. Your time is near, but death is only a passage, a new beginning." Augustus looked at me, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. "I can't go," he tried to say, but his words had no sound. He felt the weight of the impending separation, the pain of leaving his family behind. He tried to fight against this reality, refusing to accept what seemed inevitable. "Not everyone is ready to accept," I continued, "but your time in this world is ending. There is nothing to fear. Just let go." But Augustus wasn't ready to let go. He looked at Vanessa and Alberto, feeling a deep pain in his heart, a pain that transcends the physical. He wanted to stay, wanted more time, more moments, more life. His soul was torn between the desire to remain and the inevitability of his departure. 4:45 p.m. 17 hours and 35 minutes left until Augustus's death. Augustus's apartment was steeped in a despairing silence, broken only by Vanessa's sobs and the heavy breathing of Guillermo as he continued chest compressions on his brother, his hands trembling with exhaustion and fear. Each second dragged on like an eternity, every tick of the clock marking the inevitable's approach. Then, the distant sound of sirens grew louder, heralding the arrival of the paramedics. Vanessa rushed to the door, opening it before the paramedics could even knock. "This way!" she shouted, her voice choked with urgency and despair. The paramedics hurried in, their boots pounding on the wooden floor as they quickly assessed the situation. The team leader, a man with a determined expression, approached Augustus. "Stand back," he ordered, his voice firm. Guillermo stepped aside, clearing the way. "Charge the defibrillator," the leader instructed as another paramedic positioned the paddles on Augustus' chest. Vanessa clutched Alberto's hand, who watched with wide, confused eyes, sensing the invisible terror in the air. "Clear!" The electric shock jolted through Augustus's body, lifting him slightly off the floor before he collapsed back with a thud. A heavy silence followed, until the heart monitor finally emitted a weak but steady beep. After several attempts, "We've got a pulse," one of the paramedics announced. "He needs to be transported immediately." "His condition is critical," the team leader said as they began to move Augustus onto the stretcher. Vanessa held Augustus's hand for a brief moment before being pulled back to allow them to take him away. Guillermo picked up Alberto, trying to soothe him as the paramedics carried Augustus out. The ambulance sped through the streets of Curitiba, weaving through traffic as the paramedics constantly monitored Augustus's vital signs. Inside the vehicle, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Rhythmic sound of the heart monitor was the only indication that Augustus was still alive. Vanessa sat beside him, gripping his hand tightly, murmuring silent prayers. "Hang on, Augustus. We're almost there," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I, with my dark presence, merely observed the sad, desolate scene. Upon arriving at the hospital, the emergency team was already waiting. Augustus was swiftly taken to the intensive care unit. Vanessa tried to follow, but a nurse gently stopped her. "Ma'am, we need you to wait here," the nurse said firmly, yet with empathy. Vanessa stopped, her eyes fixed on Augustus as he was taken away. Guillermo, having followed the ambulance at high speed, arrived at the hospital almost simultaneously. He approached, holding Alberto close, trying to remain calm. "He's strong, Vanessa. He'll make it," he said, trying to comfort her. 10 hours left until Augustus's death. The hospital was quiet, except for the distant sound of machines and hurried footsteps. Augustus was now in the ICU, surrounded by monitors and tubes. His condition was critical. He was unconscious, caught between life and death, while his family anxiously waited outside, each minute a torture. In that darkness of consciousness, Augustus began to have visions. He saw himself young again, running carefree through a sunlit field, feeling the wind on his face, laughing with a childhood friend. In another moment, he was at Alberto's birth, feeling the love and responsibility of being a father. He saw Vanessa, radiant on their wedding day, and the joy that lit up her eyes when they said "I do." Each vision was a wave of emotions: happiness, sadness, regret. He saw the moments when he failed, the words spoken in anger, the absences he wished he could undo. But he also saw the moments of tenderness, the comforting embraces, the shared laughter. Each scene was a reminder that it was a life lived intensely, of choices made and unmade. And then he saw me again, Lucius Aeternus, by his side, a calm figure amidst the chaos of his memories. "Augustus," I said softly, "you're at a point of transition. Your journey in this world is nearing its end, but that's not something to fear." He looked at me, his eyes full of questions, fear, and hope. I'm not ready to go. There's still so much I need to do. So much I need to say. His voice was distant, like a whisper in a strong wind. "Every soul feels the same at some point," I replied, my voice calm and reassuring. "But acceptance is the first step to peace. You've lived a life full of love and learning. Now it's time to find serenity in who you've been and what you've done." As the visions continued, Augustus began to feel a shift within himself. He started to realize that his life, despite the mistakes and regrets, was full of meaningful moments, of true love and deep connection. He saw the value in the moments of joy and the lessons learned through pain. My presence beside him, gently guiding him towards acceptance. "You're not alone, Augustus. Death is just a passage, a continuation of the journey. The peace you seek is within reach." Slowly, Augustus began to accept his fate. He felt a lightness begin to fill his being, a relief that came from understanding that his life, with all its ups and downs, had been full. He looked at Vanessa and Alberto in his mind, feeling a deep love that transcended the fear of death. 7 hours left until Augustus's death. As the night wore on, Augustus felt more at peace. He knew his time was running out, but now there was a calm in his heart, an acceptance of what was to come. He looked at me, his eyes serene for the first time. "I'm ready," he whispered. "Thank you for being here." I bowed my head in a gesture of understanding and respect. "Safe travels, Augustus. You'll never be alone." And so, Augustus found his peace, accepting his departure not as an end, but as the beginning of a new and unknown journey. 10:20 a.m. Augustus says goodbye to life. The soft morning light gently fills the ICU room, casting a serene glow on Augustus's peaceful face. The monitors that once beeped with frantic signals of life now fall silent, a steady tone marking the flatline on the ECG. With deep love and respect, I delicately sever the final tie Augustus has to his physical body, his silver cord. A profound calm settles over the room, as if the hospital itself recognizes that something sacred is taking place. The doctors and nurses, who had done everything possible to save Augustus, now stand in respectful silence. They understand how fragile life is, and despite all their efforts, there are moments when it slips away, as quietly as a sigh. One of them turns off the monitor, and the monotonous sound fades, leaving only the silence and the soft, low breaths of those present. Augustus's body, lying in the bed, finally appears at peace. His last thoughts were of love for his family, acceptance of what was to come. He feels a lightness, a release from the pain that had kept him bound to his earthly form. He is no longer struggling. He is simply floating, suspended between two worlds. I, Lucius Aeternus, stand by his side, witnessing this final transition. "You fought well, Augustus," I whisper, though he can no longer hear me. "You faced your fears, your regrets, and found the peace that so many seek until their last breath." In this moment of passage, I feel the need to reflect on Augustus's journey, a life full of ups and downs, marked by love, hard work, joys, and regrets. Life is a series of moments, I muse, some filled with happiness, others with sorrow, but all are important. Each one shapes who we are, and in the end, it's this collection of moments that defines our journey. I quietly leave the room, knowing that Augustus's journey has come to its end, but many other stories are still waiting to be told. And one day, my friend, we shall meet again, on the day of your death,